"You need a home, and my twins need a mother," said the millionaire at the door. Emily Wilson held the broom so tightly her knuckles were white. Outside the mansion she could hear the muffled voices of Nathan Parker talking with his twin children in the garden. After 3 months working as a housekeeper in that house in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, she had learned to distinguish the different tones in her boss's voice. "Daddy, is the lady going to leave like the others?" asked 8-year-old Emma. The question made Emily's heart race. In the last few weeks, 4 nannies had quit. The twins, Emma and Ethan, wouldn't accept any woman trying to take the place of their mother, who had passed away 3 years ago. "No, sweetheart. This time will be different," replied Nathan with a voice Emily had never heard before. She stopped sweeping and moved closer to the living room window. Nathan was kneeling on the lawn, holding a small velvet box. The twins were beside him, Emma in her usual white dress and Ethan in his favorite blue shirt. "Ethan, Emma, would you like Emily to be our real family?" Nathan asked, looking at his children. "She makes the best brownies in the world," said Ethan, smiling. "And she doesn't yell when we play in the living room," Emma added. Emily felt her legs go weak. What was Nathan planning? She knew he had been watching how she interacted with the children, how they had finally stopped crying every night since she arrived. The doorbell rang. "Emily, can you get that, please?" shouted Nathan from the garden. She walked to the front door with slow steps. Her hands were shaking as she turned the golden doorknob. There was no one outside. She looked around and then heard Nathan's voice behind her. "Emily." She turned and nearly fainted. Nathan was there, kneeling on the doorstep, holding the open velvet box. Inside, a simple but elegant ring sparkled in the afternoon light. Emma and Ethan were beside their father, smiling as if they knew a big secret. "You need a home," said Nathan, his voice choked with emotion. "And my twins need a mother." Emily brought her hands to her face, trying to process what was happening. Her heart was beating so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. "Mr. Nathan, I don't understand," she stammered. "In the last 3 months, you've brought peace to this house. My children hadn't cried in 2 years, Emily. They've accepted you in a way they haven't accepted anyone else." Ethan stepped forward and held his father's free hand. "Are you going to be our mom?" he asked, his eyes shining. Emily felt tears streaming down her face. She looked at Nathan and for a moment saw something familiar in those brown eyes. A strange feeling took hold of her chest, as if she had lived this moment before. "I know this seems crazy," Nathan continued, slowly standing up. "But for the last 3 years, I've tried everything. Relationships that didn't work out because the women couldn't connect with the children. Nannies who gave up because Emma and Ethan are difficult with people they don't know." "But they aren't difficult with me," whispered Emily. "Exactly. And I've seen how you care for them, how you know all their little ways, how you know that Emma can only sleep if someone leaves the hallway light on, and that Ethan hides food under his bed when he gets anxious." Emily wiped her tears and looked at the children. It was true. From the very first day, something had clicked between them. It was as if she instinctively knew what they needed. "Emma, Ethan, do you really want this?" she asked, kneeling down to their level. "You stroke my hair when I have nightmares," said Emma, hugging Emily. "And you let me help in the kitchen without getting mad," Ethan added. Nathan extended the ring to Emily. "I'm not asking for love, Emily. I'm asking for a family. A real home for all of us." She looked at this man who just 3 months ago was only her employer. Tall, brown hair, always neatly combed, eyes that carried a deep sadness ever since he became a widower. But there was something else about him, something that made her feel safe. "Why me, Mr. Nathan?" "Because ever since you arrived here, this house has come back to life. Because my children are smiling for real for the first time in years. And because—" he hesitated. "Because with you, I feel at peace." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Emily closed her eyes for a moment. The proposal was absurd from any rational perspective. She was a simple 25-year-old housekeeper, an orphan since she was 16, who had spent her whole life struggling to survive. He was Nathan Parker, owner of one of the largest construction companies in Los Angeles, a widower at 32 with 2 children to raise. But when she opened her eyes and saw Emma and Ethan looking at her with hope, something inside her chest settled. She extended her left hand. "Yes." The word came out as a whisper, but it was enough to make the twins burst into shouts of joy. Nathan slid the ring onto her finger with trembling hands. "Mom! Mom!" shouted Emma and Ethan, hugging Emily tightly. She looked at Nathan over the children's heads. There was something in that moment that went far beyond a practical arrangement, a feeling that this was right, that this was how it was meant to be. "When?" she asked. "As soon as possible. I see no reason to wait if we all agree." That night, after the children went to sleep, Emily and Nathan talked in the living room. She had changed out of her housekeeper uniform into a simple navy blue dress, but she still felt out of place, sitting on the Italian leather sofa. "Emily, I need you to understand that this isn't a fairy tale," said Nathan, pouring tea for both of them. "I'm still processing the loss of Olivia. It could be years before I can love someone again in the same way. I understand, and I don't expect that from you. But I want you to know that I will always respect and protect you. You will have your own room, your own life. The only thing I ask is that you be a mother to Emma and Ethan." Emily gripped her cup tightly. There was something she needed to tell him, but she didn't know how. Not yet. "Mr. Nathan?" "Nathan. Just Nathan. Nathan, I need to tell you something. About me." He leaned forward, paying attention. I wasn't always a housekeeper. I studied. I finished high school. I took a technical course in administration. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because when you're an orphan, sometimes you take the first job that comes along to survive, and then it gets hard to leave." Nathan was silent for a moment. "Is there anything else I should know?" Emily felt her heart race. There was much more. There was a story he didn't remember, but that she had carried in her memory for 15 years. There was a flood, a family that took her in, a 17-year-old boy who shared his school lunch with her. "No," she lied. "There's nothing else." In the following days, the news spread through the house like wildfire. Margaret, the housekeeper who had worked at the mansion for 20 years, almost dropped the coffee tray when she found out. "Mr. Nathan, are you sure you know what you're doing?" she asked him the next day while tidying his office. "Margaret, have you seen how different the children have been since Emily arrived?" "I did, but marriage is a very serious thing. You barely know the young woman." "I know enough. I know she is kind, hard-working, and that she loves my children. But what if she's interested in your money?" Nathan stopped typing on the computer and looked at Margaret. "Emily had 3 months to rob me if she wanted to. She has the keys to the house, knows every corner. If she were a gold digger, she would have found a way to take advantage already." Margaret shook her head, worried. She had worked for the Parker family since Nathan was a teenager. She had watched him grow up, date Olivia since he was 18, get married, have the twins. Olivia's departure had devastated not only Nathan but the entire household. "Mrs. Olivia was special," murmured Margaret. "I know, and no one will ever take her place in my heart. But the children need a mother, Margaret and Emily, and she has something that makes me believe she can give them that stability." Margaret sighed. She had her doubts, but she couldn't deny that the atmosphere in the house had completely changed. Emma had started laughing during meals again, and Ethan had stopped throwing tantrums at bath time. Meanwhile, Emily was trying to adapt to her new reality. She had moved into one of the guest rooms on the second floor, very close to the children's room. Nathan stayed in the master bedroom at the end of the hall. "Emily, can you help me choose the dress for the wedding?" asked Emma one morning while they were having breakfast. "Of course, sweetie. What kind of dress do you want?" "One like Mommy's in the pictures." Silence fell over the table. Ethan stopped eating his cereal and looked at his sister. "Emma," said Nathan softly, "remember we talked about this." "But I want to wear a pretty dress like Mommy's," insisted the girl with tears in her eyes. Emily knelt beside Emma's chair. "How about we go to the mall and you pick out a really pretty dress just for you, one that will show how special and unique you are?" Emma dried her tears and nodded. Ethan came closer to them. "Can I pick my clothes too?" Of course, replied Emily, hugging them both. We'll make a special day for you. Nathan watched the scene in silence. There was something about the way Emily handled the children that impressed him. She wasn't trying to replace Olivia, but was creating her own space in the twins' hearts. That same afternoon, while Emily took the children to the mall, Nathan received an unexpected call. Nathan, it's William. William Parker, his older brother, had moved to San Diego 5 years earlier to take care of the company's business in the region. They talked regularly, but William rarely called in the middle of the week. Hi, William. Is everything all right? I'm calling because I got a call from Margaret. She told me about this marriage you're planning. Nathan closed his eyes. He should have imagined that Margaret would call William. And I think you've completely lost your mind. Marrying the housekeeper? Nathan, for God's sake. She's not the housekeeper anymore, William, and I know what I'm doing. You do? You've known this woman for 3 months. Do you know where she came from? Do you know if she has a family, if she has a criminal record? I don't need to know everything to know that she's good for the children. Nathan, you're vulnerable. You're still dealing with the loss of Olivia. This woman could be taking advantage of that. The children have accepted her, William. For the first time in 3 years, they are happy. And what if it's all an act? What if she's pretending? Nathan felt anger rising in his chest. It's not an act. I see how she takes care of them when she thinks no one is looking. Even so, you need to investigate this woman before you hand over your fortune to her. I'm not going to investigate anyone. I'm going to trust my instinct. Your instinct is compromised by your emotional neediness. William, I appreciate your concern, but my decision is final. Then I'm going to have to take some precautions for you. What does that mean? It means I'm traveling to Los Angeles tomorrow. I need to meet this woman in person. Nathan hung up the phone with a bad feeling. He knew William well enough to know that he wouldn't travel to Los Angeles just to meet Emily. There was something more. When Emily and the children returned from the mall, she found Nathan pacing back and forth in the living room. Did something happen? She asked, handing the shopping bags to Margaret. My brother is coming tomorrow. He wants to meet you. That's fine. It will be good to meet your family. Emily, Nathan took her hands. William can be a bit blunt. Don't take anything he says personally. She felt a shiver down her spine. There was something in Nathan's tone that worried her. He doesn't approve of our marriage? He's worried. He thinks everything is happening too fast. And it is, isn't it? Asked Emily. Maybe he's right. Do you want to call it off? She looked at Emma and Ethan, who were showing their new clothes to Margaret. The happiness on their faces was undeniable. No, but maybe we should talk more about our past, our expectations. You're right. How about we go out to dinner tonight? Just the two of us. The kids can stay with Margaret. That night, Nathan took Emily to a small Italian restaurant in the city center. It was a cozy place, away from the hustle of Beverly Hills. Tell me about your childhood, said Nathan after they had ordered. Emily felt her stomach tighten. How could she talk about her childhood without revealing the connection they had? I lost my parents when I was 16. A car accident. After that, I was alone in the world. How did you survive? I worked in several houses. I learned to take care of children, to cook, to manage a household. That must have been very difficult. It was. But it taught me to value family, you know. When you grow up without one, you learn to recognize a real one when you find it. Nathan held her hand across the table. Is that how you feel with us? Yes, she replied, and it wasn't a lie. With you, I feel at home. And before you lost your parents, what was your life like? Emily looked away. How could she explain that she had grown up in the same neighborhood where the Parker family had a country house? How could she tell him that at 10 years old, during the great 2010 floods, she had been sheltered in the Parker's house for a week? It was a simple life. My father worked in a factory. My mother was a housewife. We lived in Pasadena. In Pasadena? Nathan raised an eyebrow. Interesting. My family had a country house near there. We spent some weekends there. Emily felt her heart race. Really? Yes. There was a lake, a big wooden house. My father sold it after I got married, said it was too far to go with small children. It must have been a beautiful place. It was, especially after the rains when everything turned green. Once there was a terrible flood in the area. I remember my father sheltered some displaced families in our house. Emily gripped her fork so tightly her knuckles turned white. She remembered that flood. She remembered the wooden house, the lake that had overflowed, the 17-year-old boy who shared his school lunch with her every day. "Do you remember the families that stayed there?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Not really. I was 17, only thought about soccer and girls," he laughed. "But I do remember there was a little girl who was always reading. She must have been about 10. She would sit in the corner of the living room, quiet, reading my sister's books. Emily almost choked on her wine. She was that little girl, and Nathan didn't remember her." "That must have been scary for a child," she managed to say. "It was. That's why I tried to be kind to her. I'd bring extra snacks from school, lend her my comic books. She was very shy, barely spoke to adults." Emily felt tears burning her eyes. He remembered, not in a specific way, but he remembered her, of the kind boy who had been her first crush. "What a lucky girl," she whispered. "Why are you crying?" It's a beautiful story. It shows what kind of person you are." Nathan squeezed her hand. "Emily, I know our situation is unusual, but I want you to know that I will always take care of you. Even if this marriage is one of convenience, you deserve respect and affection." "Thank you." She wiped her tears. "That means a lot to me." They drove back to the house in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Emily wrestled internally. Should she tell the truth, or was it better to leave the past in the past? When they arrived at the mansion, they found William Parker in the living room. He had arrived earlier than expected and was talking with Margaret. William was taller than Nathan, with graying hair at his temples and a posture that exuded authority. When he saw Emily, his eyes scanned her from head to toe in an evaluative way. "You must be Emily," he said, rising from the sofa. "William," said Nathan, tension in his voice, "I thought you weren't arriving until tomorrow. I changed my flight. I wanted more time to talk." He extended his hand to Emily. "Pleasure to meet you." "The pleasure is mine," she replied, feeling the strength of his handshake. "Where are the twins?" asked Nathan. "They're already asleep," answered Margaret. "I put them to bed an hour ago." "What a pity," said William. "I was looking forward to seeing them, but we had a good chat, didn't we, Margaret?" The housekeeper lowered her eyes, clearly uncomfortable. "I'll prepare a room for Mr. William," she said, quickly leaving the room. "No need," said William. "I'll stay at the hotel. I'd prefer not to disturb the newlyweds." There was an irony in his voice that made Emily shiver. "William, why don't we have a whiskey in the study?" suggested Nathan. "Actually, I'd like to talk with Emily for a bit, alone." Nathan looked at Emily, who nodded. "All right, I'll check on the children. Emily, if you need anything—" "She'll be fine," interrupted William. "I'm not going to harm your fiancé, Nathan." When Nathan left the room, William sat back on the sofa and gestured for Emily to sit in the armchair opposite him. "So, Emily, tell me about yourself." "What would you like to know?" "Everything. Where you're from, where you studied, what your previous job was." Emily felt as if she were in an interrogation. "I grew up in Pasadena, finished high school there, got a technical degree in administration. Before working here, I worked as a housekeeper in other homes." "Pasadena," William repeated thoughtfully. "Neighborhood. Glendale." William made a note in a small notebook he took from his pocket. "Your parents' names?" "Why are you asking these questions?" "Because my brother is about to marry a woman he's known for 3 months, and because I have a responsibility to the family business. I have no interest in your money." "Everyone says that, but 3 months as a housekeeper is enough time to assess a family's wealth." Emily felt anger growing in her chest. "You think I planned all this? I think it would be quite a coincidence for the perfect housekeeper to show up in my brother's life exactly when he was most vulnerable. The children chose to accept me. I didn't force anything. Children are easily manipulated by clever adults. I love Emma and Ethan as if they were my own children. That can also be faked. Emily stood up, trembling with anger. I'm not going to sit here and listen to these accusations. Sit down, said William in a firm voice. I'm not finished. I am finished. Good night, Mr. William. She left the room and ran up the stairs. In her room, she threw herself on the bed and cried. Maybe William was right. Maybe everything was happening too fast. Maybe she should tell the truth about who she was before someone found out. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Emily? It's Nathan. Come in. Nathan entered the room and found Emily sitting on the bed, her eyes red. What did my brother say to you? He thinks I'm an opportunist. Nathan sat on the edge of the bed. I know William. He's suspicious by nature. He lost a lot of money in the past by trusting the wrong people. Maybe he's right. Maybe this is all crazy. Do you want to call off the wedding? Emily looked into his eyes. There was so much kindness there, so much hope. How could she disappoint him? How could she break the children's hearts? No, but maybe we should postpone it a little, to give people time to get used to the idea. If that's what you want, it's what I think is best. Nathan held her hand. Emily, it doesn't matter what William or anyone else says. I trust you. I've seen how you care for my children, how much you care about them. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Now try to get some rest. Tomorrow we'll talk calmly about the next steps. After Nathan left, Emily lay awake for a long time, thinking. She needed to make a decision, tell the truth about her past or let things be. Each option had its risks. The next morning, William showed up early for breakfast. Emma and Ethan were shy around the uncle they rarely saw. Uncle William, are you going to stay for our wedding? Asked Emma. What wedding, dear? Daddy's wedding to Emily. She's going to be our new mom. William looked at Emily with an unreadable expression. How interesting. And are you happy about that? Very much, said Ethan. Emily lets us help in the kitchen and she knows all the Snow White stories. She knows all the stories. I wonder how she learned so much. There was something in William's question that put Emily on alert. I've always loved reading, she replied. Since you were very little. Yes, since I was a child. Interesting. And where did you used to read when you were a child? Nathan interrupted the conversation. William, how about we go to the office to discuss the contracts for the Long Beach project? Of course, but first I'd like to see the house. It's been a while since I've been here. Margaret can show you around later. Actually, I'd like Emily to show me. Since she's going to be the lady of the house, she must know every nook and cranny. Emily felt a chill. There was something in William's words that sounded like a veiled threat. With pleasure, she replied. After breakfast, Emily guided William through the mansion. He asked questions about every room, every piece of furniture, every painting. It seemed like he was testing her knowledge of the house. This living room has a beautiful view of the garden, she commented, opening the curtains. Yes, it always has. And that tree over there. Do you know what kind it is? Emily looked at the large mango tree in the center of the garden. It's a century-old mango tree. Nathan told me it was already here when the family bought the house. Interesting. And that mark on the trunk, do you know what it is? Emily moved closer to the window and observed the tree more carefully. There were old scars on the trunk, as if someone had made carvings. I don't know, she lied. But she did know. She remembered those carvings perfectly. She had been the one who made them, 15 years ago, when she had taken shelter in the old Parker family country house. Back then, she had carved her initials into the tree as a way to leave a memento of those days, which had been the happiest of her traumatic childhood. That's curious, said William. Usually people who have worked in a house for a long time know every detail. I've only worked here for 3 months. Of course. How silly of me. But Emily knew it hadn't been silly. William suspected something. They continued the tour of the house. When they reached the attic, William asked to see the trunks where the family kept old items. Nathan has always been sentimental, he said, opening a wooden trunk. He keeps everything: photos, letters, mementos. Emily kept her distance, afraid of what William might find there. "Look at this," William said, taking a shoebox out of the trunk. "Old photos of the country house." He opened the box and began to leaf through the photographs. Emily felt her blood run cold. "Here are the photos from the 2010 floods. My father documented everything." William picked up a photo and showed it to Emily. "This one is interesting. The families who stayed with us. Can you identify anyone?" Emily looked at the photo and almost fainted. There she was at 10 years old, holding a book and smiling timidly at the camera. Next to her, a teenage Nathan with an arm around her shoulders. "No," she managed to say. "I don't recognize anyone." William watched her closely. "Are you sure? Look closely at this girl here. Doesn't she remind you of anyone?" "I can't see very well. The photo is a bit faded." "True. I'll ask Nathan to take a look later. He's always had a good memory for faces." Emily left the attic on shaky legs. William knew. Somehow he had discovered her identity. That afternoon, while the children played in the garden, William called Nathan for a private conversation in the office. "Nathan, I need to show you something." He placed the flood photo on the desk. "Remember this photo?" Nathan picked it up and smiled. "Of course, the 2010 floods. Dad was so proud of having helped those families. Do you remember the people who stayed with us?" "Some of them. Why?" "Look closely at this girl here." Nathan studied the photo more carefully. "Yes, I remember her. She was a very shy little girl. She was always reading. I used to bring her snacks every day." "Now look at this photo," William said, taking from his pocket a photo he had taken of Emily that morning without her noticing. Nathan compared the two images. Slowly, the expression on his face changed. "It can't be." "It can. Your fiancée is the same girl who took shelter in our house 15 years ago." Nathan sank into his chair. "But why didn't she tell me?" "Good question. Why would someone hide information like that? Maybe she's afraid of seeming opportunistic. Or maybe that's exactly what she is. Think about it, Nathan. An orphan who was sheltered by our family at 10 years old. She knew exactly who you were when she applied for the housekeeper job. No, Emily isn't like that. How can you be sure? She lied to you about something fundamental. What else could she be hiding?" Nathan ran his hands through his hair, distressed. "I need to talk to her." "You do, but first I hired a private investigator to look into her past. The results arrive tomorrow." "You did what?" "Someone needed to protect this family's interests, and it seems I was right to." "William, you had no right." "Yes, I did. Half of this company is mine, Nathan. Your wife will have access to everything. I have a right to know who she is." Nathan stood up, furious. "Call off that investigation now." "Too late. The results are already being compiled." "Then I don't want to see them, even if they prove she planned everything from the start." Nathan stopped at the office door. Even then. But when he left the office, doubt had settled in his heart. Why hadn't Emily told him about her past? What else was she hiding? That night during dinner, the atmosphere was tense. William was asking seemingly innocent questions about Emily's childhood, but she could sense the trap in every one of them. "Emily, you said you grew up in Pasadena. Do you know the area around the artificial lake?" "Not really." "That's a shame. It's a beautiful place, especially after heavy rains, when the water level rises." Nathan looked at his brother with a warning. "William, I'm just making conversation, brother." After dinner, when William went to the hotel, Nathan asked to talk with Emily in the living room. "Emily, I need to ask you a question." She sat on the sofa, her heart racing. "You can ask. Have you ever been to our old country house?" The question took her by surprise. She had been expecting this moment all day, but still didn't know how to answer. "Why are you asking that? Please, just answer." Emily closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, tears were streaming down her face. "Yes, I have been there." "When?" "During the 2010 floods. My family was one of those sheltered in your house." Nathan was silent for a long moment. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" Afraid that you would think I was trying to take advantage of the situation. Afraid that you would think I planned it all. And did you? The question was like a slap in the face. How can you ask that? Did you apply for the job knowing who I was? No. She stood up, desperate. I saw the ad in the newspaper. I didn't know it was your house. When I got here and saw you, I almost ran away. But you stayed. I stayed because I needed the job and because... She hesitated. Because what? Because you were the first kind person I ever met in my life. Even without remembering me, you were still the same good person you were to me when I was a child. Nathan stood up and approached her. Emily, you need to understand my position. Finding out that my fiancé lied about something so important. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you. It's the same thing. It's not. If I had lied, I would have made up a false story about my childhood. I just omitted a detail. A very important detail. Emily wiped her tears and stared at him. Okay, now you know the truth. What are you going to do? I don't know. Do you want to call off the wedding? I don't know. And the children? How will you explain it to them? Nathan ran his hands over his face, visibly distressed. I need time to process all this. How much time? I don't know. A few days, maybe. Emily nodded, even though her heart was breaking. Okay, I'll pack my things and leave in the morning. You don't have to leave. Yes, I do. I can't stay here knowing that you doubt me. And the children. You'll find a way to explain. You always do. That night, Emily packed her bags in silence. From the bedroom window, she could see Nathan walking in the garden, clearly upset. Early in the morning, she went down to the kitchen to have coffee for the last time in that house. Emma and Ethan were already there, eating cereal. Good morning, Mom, said Emma. The word Mom pierced Emily's heart like a spear. Good morning, my darlings. Are we going to choose the flowers for the wedding today? Asked Ethan. Not today, sweetie. Why? Dad said we were. Emily knelt down to the children's level. Listen, my darlings, Mommy needs to go away for a few days. Where to? Asked Emma with a worried expression. To take care of some important things. But you'll be back for the wedding, right? Insisted Ethan. I don't know. The children exchanged looks, sensing that something was wrong. Is Daddy going with you? Asked Emma. No, sweetie. Daddy is going to stay here and take care of you. But we want to go too, said Ethan, starting to cry. You can't, my dear. But Mommy will be back soon, okay? She hugged them both tightly, trying to memorize the feeling of having them in her arms. Emily? Nathan appeared in the kitchen doorway. Daddy, Emily is going to travel without us, said Emma, running to him. It's only for a few days, my love, said Nathan, picking up his daughter. But Emily could see in his eyes that he wasn't sure she would return either. Margaret is going to take you to school, said Emily, picking up her bag. No, screamed Ethan. I don't want you to go. He clung to Emily's leg, crying desperately. Emma also started to cry. Please, don't go away, begged Emma. Emily looked at Nathan, hoping he would say something that he would ask her to stay. But he just watched silently. I have to go, she said, her voice choked. She kissed each child's forehead and quickly left the kitchen before she lost her nerve. At the front door, she found William waiting with a folder in his hand. Leaving, Emily? Yes. What a shame. Just today, the results of the investigation into you arrived. She stopped and stared at him. And what did you find out? Many interesting things. Want to take a look? I'm not interested. Are you sure? I found out, for example, that you took a technical course in administration with a scholarship. I also found out that you worked as a secretary in a small company for 2 years before becoming a housekeeper. Emily felt her blood run cold. And I wonder why a person with professional qualifications would leave an office job to be a housekeeper. Sometimes people have to take what comes along, or sometimes people have specific reasons for wanting to work in specific houses. What are you implying? That maybe you knew exactly where you were applying to work. I already explained that to Nathan. Explained, or told more lies. Emily turned to leave, but William grabbed her arm. "There's one more thing. I found out you were fired from your last job under suspicion of theft." Emily turned sharply. "That's a lie. It's all here." He waved the folder. "Documented. Where did you get this information?" "Private investigators have their methods." Emily felt her world crumbling around her. Even if that accusation was false, she knew Nathan would never trust her again. "I have never stolen anything from anyone in my life." "Prove it." "How can I prove I didn't do something I didn't do?" "Exactly, it's your word against official documents." Emily looked through the window and saw Nathan watching the conversation from the office. Even from a distance, she could see the doubt in his eyes. "You made all this up," she whispered. "I didn't make it up. I just interpreted some situations unfavorably for you." "Why? What did I do to deserve this?" "You threatened the stability of my family. I can't allow that." Emily shook her head, defeated. "You got what you wanted." "Yes, I did. Now my brother will find a suitable woman to marry, someone from the same social standing with verifiable references. And the children, they will suffer. Children recover. Greedy adults, they don't." Emily left the mansion without looking back. She knew that if she looked, she would lose the courage to leave. She took a bus to downtown Los Angeles and rented a small room in a cheap boarding house. For 3 days, she stayed locked in the room, crying and wondering how everything had gone so wrong. On the 4th day, she decided to look for a job. She needed to keep busy so she wouldn't think about Nathan and the children. He found a job at a diner in the city center. The pay was low, but it was the best he could get with his references. Meanwhile, at the mansion, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Emma and Ethan had entered a sort of silent strike. They refused to eat, didn't want to go to school, and cried constantly. "Where's Emily?" was the only question they asked. Nathan tried to explain that she had traveled for work, but the children didn't believe him. They knew something was wrong. "Daddy, did you fight with Emily?" Emma asked one night as Nathan was trying to put her to bed. "Why are you asking that, sweetie?" "Because she was crying when she left and you're sad too." Nathan sighed. "How do you explain to an 8-year-old that the adult world was complicated?" "Sometimes adults need to solve important problems, Emma." "But she's coming back, right?" "I don't know." "I want her to come back. She gives the best goodnight kisses." "I know, honey." "Daddy, can you look for her and say you're sorry?" "Sorry for what?" "I don't know. When I fight with Ethan, Mum always told us to say sorry and make up." His daughter's innocent words hit Nathan like a punch in the gut. Had he made a mistake? Had he let his brother's suspicions influence his judgment? The next morning, William showed up to say goodbye before returning to San Diego. "I came to say I'm proud of you, Nathan. You made the right decision." "Did I?" "Of course. You got rid of a dangerous woman before it was too late." "William, I've been thinking a lot these past few days. And maybe I was unfair to Emily." William stopped smiling. "What do you mean?" "She took care of my children with genuine love. I saw it with my own eyes. And even if she had sought me out intentionally, that doesn't mean she's a bad person." "Nathan, you're letting your emotions get the better of you again." "No, I'm letting reason guide me, for the first time in days." "And what about that report about the theft?" "What report?" "You never showed me any report." William hesitated. "I still have it with me. I can show you now if you want." "I do want to see it." William opened his briefcase and took out some papers. Nathan read them quickly and then looked at his brother with a furious expression. "This doesn't prove anything, William. These are just accusations with no evidence. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Or where there's spite, there's slander." "What do you mean?" "You made this whole story up, didn't you?" William tried to maintain his composure. "I didn't make up anything. You just what?" "I just interpreted the facts unfavorably for her." Nathan crumpled the papers and threw them in the trash. "You destroyed my chance at happiness out of jealousy." "It wasn't jealousy. It was family protection." "Yes, it was jealousy. Jealousy of seeing that I could be happy again. Jealousy that someone could take better care of the company than you." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" "Then why did you sabotage the documents for the Long Beach project?" William paled. "How do you know about that?" Because I'm your brother, William. I've known you since you were born. I thought it was strange those documents disappeared right after Emily left. I thought it was even stranger when they showed up on your desk after she was gone. I didn't. You planted those documents to frame Emily, and when that didn't work, you made up the story about the theft at her previous job. William sank into a chair, defeated. All right, maybe I went a little too far. A little? You destroyed an innocent woman's life. I was protecting our family. Our family was well protected in her hands. My children were happy for the first time in 3 years. William looked at his brother with remorse. I'm sorry, Nathan. I was afraid of losing you too. Lose you how? After Olivia left, you closed yourself off. I became your only adult family. When Emily appeared and I saw how she changed you, how you smiled again, I felt like I was going to lose you to her. Ethan sat down next to his brother. William, you will never lose me. You are my brother. But that doesn't give you the right to sabotage my happiness. I know, and I'm sorry. It's not to me you should apologize. It's to Emily. Where is she? I don't know. She left here 4 days ago and hasn't been in touch. Let's find her. Let's fix this. Ethan looked at his brother with a skeptical expression. How? Leave it to me. I know people who can locate her quickly. No private detectives this time, William. No investigations. Just find out where she is. I promise. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Meanwhile, Emma was working at the downtown diner, serving coffee and sandwiches to employees from nearby offices. The work was simple, but it kept her busy enough not to think about what she had lost. Emma, are you okay? Asked Mrs. Jenkins, the owner of the diner. You've been very quiet these last few days. I'm fine, Mrs. Jenkins. Just tired. Do you want to talk? Sometimes it helps to talk about problems. Emma looked at the woman in her early 50s who had become her only friend during those difficult days. It's a long story. I have time. It's slow today. Emma told Mrs. Jenkins everything. About the arranged marriage, about her history with the Parker family, about William's accusations. My dear, Mrs. Jenkins said when she finished, you let the love of your life get away because of pride. What do you mean? You should have fought for your happiness. You should have confronted that William, proven your innocence. How could I prove it? It was my word against his documents. Documents can be forged, dear. True love cannot. It wasn't true love. It was a marriage of convenience. A marriage of convenience doesn't make a man go 3 days without eating, just like you're doing. How do you know that he... Because that's what love is like. When it's real, it hurts both people the same. That afternoon, a man in a suit entered the diner. Emma recognized him immediately. It was Mr. Thompson, the Parker family lawyer. Emily Wilson. Yes. I need to speak with you, miss. It's about Nathan Parker and the children. Emma's heart raced. Did something happen to them? It might have. The children have fallen into a deep depression since you left. They don't eat, they don't sleep well, they don't want to go to school. Emma leaned on the counter to keep from falling. And Nathan? He's not well either. He discovered that his brother fabricated the accusations against you. Fabricated? Completely. There was never any theft at your previous job. Mr. William made it all up to separate you. Emma felt a mix of anger and relief. Why are you telling me this? Because Mr. Nathan asked me to find you. He wants to apologize in person. And the children? They ask for you day and night. The girl won't stop crying, and the boy is getting sick from refusing to eat. Mrs. Jenkins approached. My dear, you need to go back there. I don't know if I can. The trust was broken. Trust can be rebuilt, said Mr. Thompson. But the children need you now. Where are they? At the mansion. Mr. Nathan hasn't left the house since he discovered the truth about his brother. Emma took off her apron and handed it to Mrs. Jenkins. May I go? Of course, my dear. And don't worry about the job. If things don't work out, you come back. Thank you for everything, Mr. Thompson drove Emily back to Beverly Hills. During the drive, he told her more details about what had happened. Mr. William confessed everything. He said he was afraid of losing his brother and that he acted out of jealousy. And did Nathan believe him? Yes, and he was furious with himself for having doubted you, miss. And now, what does he expect from me? That you talk, that you try to rebuild the trust. And the children? They are desperate to see you. When they arrived at the mansion, Emily saw Nathan walking in the garden. He was thinner, with deep, dark circles under his eyes, as if he hadn't slept in days. She got out of the car and walked towards him. When Nathan saw her, he stopped immediately. Emily. Hi, Nathan. They stood there, motionless, looking at each other without knowing what to say. I'm so sorry, he finally said. I'm sorry, too, for not telling you about my past from the beginning. You were right to be afraid. I reacted exactly the way you feared I would. And you were right to feel betrayed. I should have been honest. Can we start over? He asked. Maybe. But first I need to see the children. They're in their room. They haven't left since... Emily ran up the stairs. She found Emma and Ethan lying on the bed, holding each other, their eyes red from crying. Emma! Ethan! The children lifted their heads. When they saw Emily, they burst into tears. Mom! They shouted in unison, running to her. Emily knelt down and hugged them with all her strength. I missed you both so much. We thought you weren't coming back, Emma sobbed. I thought you wouldn't want to forgive me for leaving. We forgive you, said Ethan. But you won't leave again, right? Never again, my love. Never again. Nathan appeared in the bedroom doorway and watched the scene with tears in his eyes. Dad missed you too, said Emma. It's true, Ethan agreed. He cried in secret when he thought we couldn't see him. Nathan blushed. Kids. It's true, Dad, you were just as sad as we were. Emily stood up and looked at Nathan. We need to talk. Alone. Yes. Kids, how about you take a bath and get ready? Then we can all have dinner together. Is Emily staying for dinner? Asked Emma. If she wants to, Nathan replied. I want to, said Emily. While the children got ready, Nathan and Emily went down to the living room. Emily, I need to tell you everything that happened after you left. He told her about William's confession, about the forged documents, about how he had realized the manipulation. I should have trusted you from the start, he said. You gave me every reason to trust you, and I let my brother's suspicions blind me. And I should have been honest about my past. If I had told you from the beginning, none of this would have happened. No, you were right to be afraid. I proved that your fear was justified. They were silent for a moment. Nathan, can I ask you something? Anything. When you found out who I was, what did you feel? He thought for a moment. Relief. Relief. Relief because I finally understood why I felt so connected to you, why it felt like I'd known you for years, why the children adapted to you so quickly. And now? How do you feel now? Regretful. For letting pride and distrust destroy something that could have been beautiful. It still can be beautiful, she whispered. Nathan stepped closer and took her hands. Do you forgive me for doubting you? Yes. If you forgive me for lying by omission. I forgive you. But on one condition. What? That from now on, there are no more secrets between us, no omissions, no half-truths. Promise. But you also have to promise that you will trust me, even when things seem suspicious. Promised. He knelt down again and took the ring from his pocket. Emily Wilson, will you marry me? For real this time, no arrangements, no conveniences. For love. For love? She smiled through her tears. I love you, Emily. I think I started loving you from the very first day, but only now I understand why. Because you've loved me for 15 years, she said. A childhood love that never died. And you, do you love me? Since I was 10 years old. You were my first love, my first hero. And you still are. He slid the ring onto her finger again. So is that a yes? Yes, it is. The children, who had quietly come downstairs and were secretly watching from behind the door, burst into cheers of joy. They said they love each other, shouted Emma. Now they're going to get married for real, added Ethan. The family gathered in a group hug right there in the living room. That night during dinner, they planned a simple wedding, with only close family and intimate friends. William would be invited, but only after making a formal apology to Emily. "And the honeymoon?" asked Emma. "We're all going together," said Nathan. "A family honeymoon." "Where to?" asked Ethan. Emily and Nathan looked at each other and smiled. "To the lake house," they said together. 3 weeks later, the wedding took place in the mansion's garden. Emily wore a simple yet elegant dress, and the children were her attendants. William gave an emotional speech, publicly apologizing for his actions. Mrs. Jenkins was a special guest and cried throughout the entire ceremony. Margaret, who had regretted her initial suspicions, prepared a special banquet. When the priest asked if there was any reason the two should not be married, Emma raised her little hand. "I have something to say." Everyone laughed. "You may speak, dear," said the priest. "I want everyone to know that Emily is the best mom in the world, and that my dad is the luckiest man in the universe." The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, during the party, Nathan pulled Emily aside to dance. "You know something?" he said, spinning her slowly. "What?" "I think that 10-year-old girl planned all of this." "How so?" "She made those carvings in the tree as a promise that she would return one day. And she did return. Home, to where she always belonged." The music kept playing as they danced under the stars, with Emma and Ethan playing in the garden around them. 6 months later, Emily implemented significant changes in the company. She created a support program for families affected by natural disasters, turning the traumatic experience of her childhood into a strength to help others. The cold mansion became a welcoming home, always full of children's laughter and the aroma of the special dishes Emily prepared. William moved permanently back to Los Angeles and became the twins' favorite uncle, trying to make up for his past mistakes with affection and gifts. One night, 2 years after the wedding, Emily was in the attic looking for Christmas decorations when she found the box of old photos. She picked up the photo from the 2010 floods and looked at it fondly. "Found our treasure?" asked Nathan, appearing in the doorway. "I was remembering those days. They were the hardest of my childhood, but they're also what brought me to you. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if the floods never happened. I think we would have found each other anyway. Fate has its plans." Nathan came closer and hugged his wife from behind. "And what plans are those?" "Look down and see." In the garden, Emma and Ethan were playing with a puppy they had recently adopted. They were running and laughing, completely happy and safe. "Our family," whispered Nathan. "Our perfect, crazy family." Crazy. William keeps coming up with conspiracy theories about why Margaret hides brownies in her room. Emma wants to be an astronaut and an archaeologist at the same time. Ethan decided he's going to marry his English teacher when he grows up. "And you? What are your crazy plans?" Emily turned in his arms and smiled. "I want to expand our family." "What do you mean?" "Well, I was thinking that Emma and Ethan need a little brother or sister." Nathan looked at her with surprise and then with growing joy. "Are you telling me that—" "I'm telling you that our family is going to grow in 7 months. He picked her up and spun her around the attic. "Are you sure?" "I am. I took the test this morning." "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I wanted it to be a surprise. Remember the promise of no more secrets? This is a good surprise. The best surprise of my life." They went downstairs to tell the children the news. Emma and Ethan were thrilled with the idea of having a brother or sister. "Will it be a boy or a girl?" asked Emma. "We don't know yet," said Emily. "I want it to be a girl so I can play dolls with her," said Emma. "I want it to be a boy so I can play soccer with him," said Ethan. "What if they're twins?" asked Nathan. "Then there will be one for each of you," the children shouted. That night, after the children went to sleep, Nathan and Emily sat in the garden looking at the tree where she had made the carvings so many years ago. "You know something," said Emily. "What?" "When I was little and made those carvings in the tree, I made a wish." "What wish?" "I wished to one day have a real family, a family that would love me for who I am." "And your wish came true?" "With interest." I didn't just get a family. I got the perfect family for me. Nathan held her hand. Emily? Yes? Thank you for never giving up on us, even when I gave up. Thank you for finding me twice in my life. Once when I was a child and needed a hero, and again when I was an adult and needed a family. Third time, he corrected. Third. The first was when I was a teenager and didn't know I needed to meet the woman of my life. The second was when you arrived at our house as the housekeeper, and I didn't know I was reuniting with my destiny. And the third is now, when we finally understand that we were always meant to be. Meant to be? Destined for each other from the start. They sat there until late, planning the future, reliving the past, and enjoying the perfect present they had built together. 6 months later, when the twins were born, a boy and a girl, just as Emma had wished, the family was complete. The house that was once cold and quiet was now full of laughter, play, and the unconditional love that only a family united by fate can have. William became the godfather of the new twins and swore that this time he would just be the fun uncle, without any interference. Margaret became the official grandma to all the children, and Mrs. Jenkins moved to a nearby house so she could visit often. On their first wedding anniversary, Nathan gave Emily a special piece of jewelry, a necklace with a tree-shaped pendant with small diamonds representing each family member. To remind you that you planted roots in my heart 15 years ago, and now our family tree never stops growing, he said, and to remind us that sometimes the wishes we make as children take years to come true, but when they do, they're even more beautiful than we imagined, she replied. That night, as they watched the 4 children sleeping in their rooms, Emily and Nathan knew they had found not just love, but the purpose of their lives, to raise a family based on true love, mutual trust, and the certainty that some meetings are indeed the work of destiny. The orphan girl who was once sheltered during a flood had become the matriarch of a happy family. The kind teenager who shared his school lunch with a stranger had become the man who built a home based on love and generosity. And the 4 children now running through the mansion's gardens would grow up knowing that true love exists, that family is life's greatest treasure, and that sometimes the best stories begin with the most difficult moments. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. Do you believe Emily made the right decision by accepting Nathan's unusual proposal? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. Thank you so much for your company. Don't forget to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other exciting stories.